What's up, Internet? You're tuning in to episode 13 of the Steam Deck podcast, Flip Screen Games weekly podcast, all about Valve's hot new handheld, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Peter Messi, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. I'm back, baby.
Indeed. How was your honeymoon? Your wedding? I'm sure we'll talk about more on one more thing.
Yeah, we'll talk all about it over there. But it was great. It was a great time, and I was away for a week, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But the only gaming console I brought with me was my Steam Deck. So had some quality time with both my wife and my Steam Deck on this honeymoon. So it was a good one. How was last week's show with Max?
It was good. Yeah, we had a good time, and he joined me on Flip Screen Games podcast as well. I was finally able to talk about Vampire Survivors with a fellow, I guess, survivor of that game.
Do you play as a vampire in that game?
No, there are no vampires in that game at all. Not a single one in Vampire Survivors.
What? Really?
The only one is on the launch screen. That's it.
What? Okay.
Yeah, sorry to spoil it, but there's no vampires.
Damn, because I was going to be like, are you a vampire survivor or are you a survivor of vampires? But it sounds like neither.
It's definitely that way around. And you open coffins to look for vampires, but there aren't ever any in there. There's just another hero that joins your party. But every single one, none of them are vampires.
You're messing with me right now. I believe you, but that's I'm so distracted by wanting to ask more questions about that we're gonna move on, because otherwise I'm gonna derail the entire episode.
Talk about it on Flip Screen Games podcast.
Okay, sounds good. Anyway, welcome back, everybody. You were here last week. I wasn't, so welcome back to me, but also welcome back to you to the show this week. We've got a good one ahead of you. We're going to talk a little bit about my experience with bringing the Steam Deck along on my honeymoon, some new controller options that are currently in beta, VRR support incoming for the Steam Deck, and if we have time, you'll hear the tale of how Steve bricked his Steam Deck and then thankfully was able to fix it. So when I first heard that, I was like, oh no, panic mode, but it's all right. It worked out. We're all good.
Yeah, it was fun. Max's reply when I posted it, because it was just after I think we'd finished recording, and I was telling him I was tinkering with something I was working on a new plugin, and he just replied, "Tinkering's going well then," and I was like, "Thanks, Max."
You son of a bitch. Yeah, so we got a jam-packed one for you. So, but before we get into that, let me remind you that this week's episode of the Steam Deck podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of November. They are, of course, Account, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the real, still the real, and we greatly appreciate you supporting this and all the cool content we're doing here at Flip Screen Games. If you want to find links to all that content, flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find all of our sister shows. You can find our YouTube channel. You can find our Twitch channel. You can write into the show if you want to be a part of it. However you want to get involved with what we're doing here at Flipscreen, that's the best way to do it, flipscreen.games. Go check it out. Get involved however you choose to. No matter how you do, we thank you for tuning into this week's show. So we'll kick things off with my week with my Steam Deck. One of the questions that you wrote here was, how was it as a media device? And I'm going to just get ahead of that because that was something I was excited to try. I was unable to because I forgot to pack an HDMI cable. I brought my dock. I brought a mouse and keyboard so I could use it across the room. I had my PlayStation. I was all ready to go, right? My PlayStation controller. And I forgot the HDMI cable. And as I'm getting to my hotel, I'm like, I'm sure they have an HDMI cable here. They did not. They had a direct, old school aux cable plugged in to get cable to these televisions that were running TV in 480i or 480p, I forget which. So I watched a lot of standard definition television.
Would you have even been able to plug in there? Was there an HDMI port?
There was an HDMI port, and the television supported 720, so I would have been able to, but alas.
Instead, you got to see everyone with that soft, hazy filter of standard definition television.
Yeah, just the grainy You know, like there's like dots going the whole time.
See, I always feel like it looks like someone smeared Vaseline on the screen, and like you're just looking at it through the Vaseline. Watch like an old episode of Murder She Wrote. You'll know exactly what I mean.
Okay.
She's like glowing from the softness.
Well, one of the things I did watch was I was like, as I was flipping, Nick at Night is running old episodes of Friends, and I was like, oh look, I can watch it as God intended, like it looked in 1990, you know, or 94, whatever.
4:3, yeah, where you can't see the people that they cropped out, like the double for Rachel or Monica.
So yeah, I'll get ahead of it with the media device angle of it. Did not end up panning out for me, but I did get some mileage out of the dock in the way that I expected, where I was able to use it for like tabletop when my hands were tired from holding for too long, and it was a great solution for that.
You think you'd get one of those? Have you seen them? The clip-on kickstands. I know that there was one with Project Kill Switch, which has been recalled because they used a magnetic system, but it slowed down some of the fans, the Delta fans that are used within some of the Steam Decks. It would slow the fan down. The magnet was too strong, so they're retooling it. But there's a few others that you can kind of clip on to the Steam Deck, and it gives it like a decent kickstand. Would you ever use anything like that instead of a dock?
I don't think I would. I don't like the kickstand on the Nintendo Switch. I've always found it to be
not even the new one. The
one on the OLED
Microsoft
is good.
Surface style
yeah,
one,
the one on the OLED is good. But the original one is terrible. And
yeah, it's trash.
It was like a light breeze would knock that thing over, you know? So like I can't see myself spending money on a whole different accessory just to have access to that when I have the dock and it works perfectly for that, you know? Because it's not like I'm really doing that at home. I'm only doing it when I travel, and when I travel, I imagine I'm going to bring the dock anyway because it's super small and it's easy to toss in a bag. So yeah, I can't see the use case for that being significant enough for me to want to buy a whole new piece of hardware when I've already got something that serves multi-purpose, you know?
Yeah, and then I guess when you got there, you could plug the dock in and then put your Steam Deck on it, or did you just plug the cable straight into your Steam Deck?
Right, yeah, it was like, you know, when I was on the flight home and I was playing Persona 5 Royal, which we'll talk a little bit about in a second, I hit a point where like I had been playing in handheld mode and my hands are getting tired and then the battery's dying. And I was like, oh, all right, I got to plug this thing in so I can keep going. But I don't want to have the additional weight of the cable on it because my hands are feeling tired. So I just popped it in the dock, plugged it into the charger on the plane, and was able to just bust out my PlayStation controller and play that way, you know? So good solution for that. And that is really the game I played the most was Persona. I played a little bit of Shovel Knight Dig, which we'll probably talk about on Flip Screen Games podcast this week if we get to what we're playing, because I'm playing a couple new games. But Persona was really the game I spent the most time with. If you've listened to any of our other shows by this point, you'll have heard this plug, but we are going to be doing it's like a new podcast, basically. We're going to be doing a monthly game club where at the end of we're playing Persona 5 Royal for the first one, and at the end of every month, we'll do an episode covering another palace and like another chunk of the game. So like everybody's goal is to get to the end of Kamoshida's palace by the end of November, and I'm already ready to send the calling card because I've been playing a lot of it on the Steam Deck. It runs really, really well. I've got it.
I mean, I'm not surprised by that. It runs at 60 FPS on the Nintendo Switch. So if it ran like crap on the Steam Deck, I'd have been really disappointed.
Yeah. So it runs great. I'm surprised to have it at 60 FPS because obviously it didn't run at 60 FPS on
I know,
PS4
yeah.
Pro.
And they kept saying that it was I think because I had Zaid on One More Thing last week, and obviously he's joining us for the Game Club, and I think he said it was like an artistic choice, they said, to run it at 30 FPS, which obviously that's gone out the window now that you can run it at 60 or 120 FPS if your machine, your PC can handle it.
Crazy.
You can run it at 120.
Yeah, so I'm really pleased with how it runs, and I actually, when I got home, I've been fooling around with excuse me. Oh, excuse me. I've been playing around with the dock a little bit more since I got home, and this is the first game that I feel like I've tried that has like a true like plug and play dock experience. Like I still had to change the settings for the game and everything, but bumping it down to 720 so that it would fit, and everything was like really all I had to
Why'd
do.
you go 720? I know that game runs at 1080. You could run that at 1080, no problem.
Doesn't give me the option.
FPS. You have to go into back out of the game. You click on the hamburger menu button and go to properties. And then within there's a setting called game resolution, and you can override the resolution, and you can have it output all the way up to native resolution of what your screen does.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the thing. It's like the experience is still not quite there because it should be, in my opinion, what the Steam Deck should do is detect the resolution that you set in the settings. So either the native resolution of the screen, or if you've overridden that and set it to 1080 or 1440, and just use that and give me the option within the game, because all it does is it unlocks those options within the game. It still sets it as to whatever you set within the game.
Interesting. Okay. I'll have to play around with that because I had been playing Persona 5 on my TV for a bit because I was home the other night and, there was nothing on the television, right? And like I was like, well, I might as well, right? So I'll plug it in and get that whole experience running. And even playing it in 720, like at 60 FPS, it feels good, and it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it feels like it looks pretty on par with what my experience was on PlayStation 4 Pro when I played it originally. So I'm pretty pleased by that, I gotta say. The only thing is,
I can imagine. I mean, it's not a demanding game though, right? It's walking around and then it's turn-based combat, so it's like you would expect it to, but there is still like crowds and things in there. Have you experienced any like dips in performance or anything, or has it just been solid across the board?
Yeah, really, the only issue I've experienced is I don't know if you're playing the game right now as well for the Game Club, obviously, but I don't know if you remember this. There's that feature where you can turn on the network and it'll show you percentages of like what other people have done. That
is
keeps
totally
crashing.
fucked on Xbox. That is fucked on Xbox as well. Every 15, I think it was 15 minutes or 30 minutes, I can't remember, it comes up with an error message saying like,
yes,
could not connect, like
so,
you've been booted off or something.
I've had that happen to the point where I just turned it off because it's not worth it.
Me too.
And the interesting thing is there's like a screen that pops up because you're on a Steam Deck, so it thinks that you're on a PC, and it's like a regular like PC window, and it's it's got the OK, and you're supposed to go and like click it, but in Steam Deck mode, like there obviously isn't, like while you're in the game, there's no mouse,
Well, I can tell you how to use a mouse. You hold the Steam button down and you use the trackpad.
You're right. And I did that. But the thing is, it doesn't always work. So I had, the first time it happened, I did that, worked like a charm. I was able to navigate and right click with the button and everything. And it just put me right back in the game and it was fine. The next time that it happened, it, for whatever reason, it refused to allow me to do that, so I got kicked out of the game basically. And thankfully, it happened right after I had been in a safe room and saved. But otherwise, I would have just lost progress.
That would have been a rage quit moment for me.
Yep.
And I don't think I'd have gone back to the game.
So that was
like, I would have been so mad if I lost progress on it. I lost progress on a game this week that I'm going to talk about, Signalis, which I installed through the Humble Choice bundle, and I didn't realize it didn't autosave at all because the game doesn't tell you unless you read the manual. And so I quit out the game thinking, I've just got to like a place. It's like, it will have saved, right? No, nothing. No. Lost it. I had to start the game from scratch.
It sucks. That is the worst. Yeah, I had that experience a little bit with Persona 5 where I was playing on Merciless, and like when you die, if you're not in the middle of like a boss battle or something, it just kicks you out to the title screen. And it was like a total RNG thing where it was like the first attack that the opposing mob I had encountered had done happened to target my character, and it was a crit, and it one-shotted him at full health.
Yeah, there's no way you could have known.
Yeah, and it just happened, right? And it's like, all right, that sucks.
But you feel cheated though, right? It feels like a cheap shot. I've got to say, I've been playing on Xbox and then streaming it to my Steam Deck, and playing it that way, that's the way I recommend a lot of people to play it, because I got to say, I can't remember the name, instant resume or whatever it's called.
Quick resume.
Quick resume. Amazing for Persona.
Oh, yeah.
You just you don't have to save the game. You just turn your console off, you boot it back up, there it is.
Yeah. Literally the only reason I didn't go that route is because I was going on my vacation and I knew I wanted to take advantage of the flight to play Persona. So, I just picked it up on Steam full price, which no big deal. I'm happy to pay for that game again. It's a great game. But yeah, it's been fun. I've been really, really enjoying going back to it. I think the Steam Deck is like a perfect platform for it. So if you're looking for a JRPG or something meaty that you can kind of have as a side piece game, and jump in, jump out, Persona 5 is a great, great candidate, and it runs fantastically. And again, if it's the only game you're playing on the deck, it quickly became the only game I'm playing on the deck right now. Obviously, you don't have to worry about not being able to get to a save spot or whatever. You can just suspend it as you would anything else. So that's been working for me pretty well.
That's cool. And I saw a thing while you were away as well, and I just want to call it out for people that have started Persona 5 Royal on PlayStation and then want to play it on Steam Deck. There's a tool that someone's made, and I'll put a link to it in the description or in the show notes, that lets you take your save from PlayStation and bring it over to Steam, and it'll decrypt the PlayStation save and convert it to the PC file format.
Really?
And then you can carry on where you left off.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But it only works that way? Only from PlayStation to PC?
Correct, yeah. So once you've got it from PlayStation, unless you have a hacked PlayStation, then you can go back the other way. But if you don't have a hacked PlayStation, there's a one-way thing. It'll take your save, convert it to the PC version, and then you can carry on.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Cool, but wild. I gotta say, the fact that somebody was able to make a tool, I'm like, Atlas, why isn't every game just cross progression?
Support, Steam, log in with Steam, and I can carry on where I left off. That's what I want, right?
Yeah. Or again, do some kind of third party system, even if you have to, right? Where
every Ubisoft game, you can log in with the Ubisoft Connect, and if you play it on Xbox, you can play the same save on PlayStation. Right. You can play the same save on PC. It's really, really good system.
And especially when I think about I own this game on 2 platforms, right? Why
you
can't
paid for it?
I paid for it twice. Right? So, why not just let me, rather than me, plugging in my Steam Deck and playing it on the TV, if I want to jump on my PlayStation 5 and use my boxed copy, why can't I do that,
Yeah.
Oh. We'll get there.
Yeah, we obviously had Max on last week, and he's got a gaming PC hooked up to his TV, and it made me really jealous. I really am wanting to build a gaming PC next year, because it just sounds like a great scenario that you can go and play games on your gaming PC, and then when you want to go, the game's already synced to the Steam cloud, and you just carry on where you left off on your Steam Deck, and it's synced across, your saves there, your games there, you just carry on. It's so nice.
I've always thought that felt too cumbersome to be worth doing, but now that I have the Steam Deck, I'm like, man, that would be sick though. That would be really nice.
Yeah, but especially considering last week as well, Valve made the new big picture mode as the Steam Deck UI, so it looks like the Steam Deck on your TV now.
Oh man. You might I'm not getting married next year.
Is what
I can spend money on whatever stupid shit I want now, Steve. You can't just tempt me with stuff like this.
Remember when I said this is what Valve needs to do next? That should be their next step, a dedicated box that runs SteamOS, and you just plug it into your TV, and it's a little bit more powerful because it's not restricted by a battery. It can take the full power draw.
What were their things called? Was it Steam boxes?
Steam machines.
Steam machine. Yeah.
Yeah, don't call it that.
No. You just leave that. You leave that dead. I feel like you call it the Steam box. Or
Steam box, and then you take your Steam Deck away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, would be nice.
And like you actually deliver on the promise of the PlayStation, the image, not the image. What's the word I'm looking for? The vision of the PlayStation Vita. You know, like it would actually be that.
Yeah, so they've already delivered on that, right? Because you can do that with your gaming PC, and then you can go away and you can stream the games with Steam Link from your gaming PC to the Steam Deck.
Yeah,
but it's like it's not quite what you want. It's not a plug and play solution, which is what I think a lot of people want.
I don't think it's quite the same. Like it is if you're a PC gamer, right? And like I don't mean to act like that's not significant, but like that's not it's not quite the plug and play like center of the living room.
This is like a gateway to me though, because like when you realize all of the things you've been missing out on when you've only played on consoles, and you're like, yeah, I know, but I couldn't just install emulators on it, and I couldn't just, you know, use this tool to convert my save so I can bring it over from something else, or I can't tweak, you know, the number of cores to get additional performance out of something. When you realize you've been missing out on all of this stuff, it kind of makes you think, well, maybe I should try PC gaming. Maybe I should give it a go.
I think you're the type of person who I could see making the jump. I'm not, you know, and like I did that, right? I built my first gaming PC and I went through a whole phase of being like, I'm going to play PC games and PC, but like I just don't like it as much, right? Like I find it to be an inherently cumbersome experience, and the stuff that you're talking about of like, oh, like I feel like I'm missing out on like playing with my cores to get more power. I'm like, I don't want to do that, right? Like that is.
I know, but are you going to feel like you're missing out on 60 FPS when all games go back to 30 FPS on
I don't
consoles?
think they're going
to.
I don't.
No,
agree
they definitely are.
I don't agree.
They definitely are. Check out Digital Foundry's latest video and article over on Eurogamer. There is no way in hell that 60 becomes the norm anymore. It's going back to 30.
We'll see. I don't necessarily agree, but we'll see what happens. I don't know. Like, maybe that would be enough to make me like think about it more seriously. If I could have a situation like that, right? If I could like have a gaming PC in my living room that I use in big picture mode, and like I'm not using it like a PC. Sure. But even that,
I mean,
right?
you could
like,
do that, or you can. What type of graphics card have you got? Is it NVIDIA or AMD?
NVIDIA.
So if you've got an NVIDIA card, you can use Moonlight and you can stream 4K video within your house, like to your Steam Deck, and it'll have like almost zero latency. So you could already do that and use like the Steam Deck as like a Steam Link situation.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, if that ends up being the case where like I feel motivated to do that because there is like enough of a performance difference or something like that, or like I do just want to like make the plug and play, like playing on my TV and then jumping on the Steam Deck and taking advantage of cloud saves and all that stuff, because I am getting more entrenched in that ecosystem, right? And like now I am way more likely to buy a new indie game or a new this or a new that on Steam than I used to be. So like there's definitely a use case there that I can see, and I could very much see myself making that decision, but I think it would have to be in service of like a console-like experience, because I don't want to play with settings and stuff. Like that's just not, you know, I only have so much time to play video games, right? As a person who has other hobbies, as an adult with a full-time job and a wife and, you know, like a life outside of playing games, right? I play a lot of games, but I want to use as much free time as I have for games playing games, not, you know, messing with settings and being like, I got this to run at a higher frame. Like I don't want to do that. Like I want the hardware to do that.
Yeah, I think this is where I think eventually we're going to get to the community-based profiles, and especially when it's one SKU that you're targeting, right? You're targeting the Steam Deck. Someone can like hone in those settings, share the profile online. You can download it, and you know it's going to work. It's the same way as the controllers. I really think that's where we're going to get.
I think you're right, and I hadn't thought about that until you said it. But I bet you're right, and I hope so, because that would be such a difference maker again, right? To be like, if the goal of the Steam Deck and Valve's like in current initiatives to like demystify PC gaming, I feel like that's the last thing, to let the use and the again, so many people in our community who are PC gamers or PC first gamers, right? Like, if I could let you types of folks that want to get in there and mix with sliders and be like, this is actually these are the settings where you're really going to get this thing to sing, right? And here's a setting for specifically your graphics card because some person is using my graphics card and went through the trouble, and I can just be like, boom, boom, okay, great, right, awesome. Like that might push me over, and that.
I mean, they're already doing the Steam hardware survey to figure out what your machine has. Like, does it have this graphics card or this processor, that kind of thing. So, I really think that's where they'll get to. And
do you think they'll actually make a box? Like, do you think that's the goal?
I think the goal is to kill Windows and kill their reliance on Windows. And if making a box means it gets them one step closer to them having to rely on Windows, I think they will.
Because I think that's honestly a thing that would make me consider that even more, is like, if they make a box that I can just get as like a regular console set-top box, I'm in. I'll do that. I'll do that day one. Even just for content, right? To talk about it and be like, is this thing good?
Well, yeah, or even just like emulation, right? Because you'll be able to have like EmuDeck set up on there. You'll be able to have all of your emulators. You can just plug and play and just like play all of these hundreds of games that you've got access to from your back catalog.
Yeah, and like that sounds great. But I think even if that doesn't come to pass, I may go the route of building a new gaming PC, or like maybe buying a new rig for work and then taking my current rig and making that a set-top box and just replacing the graphics card or something, whatever. And just like only having the SteamOS on it and default running it in big picture mode, console mode, whatever, right? And only switching to desktop to do the stuff that I would do on a Steam Deck, right? And like, if I can really like make that a experience that feels like perfect parity, right? Where like when I sit down and play on the PC box that I've got connected, I can hit that 4K 60 FPS like console like experience that I'm looking for. And then if I want to just chip away at side stuff, right? Pull it up on the deck and literally all I have to do is jump into the game and it's already cloud sunk. Like, that sounds like a really attractive experience. And, that might be something I feel is worth investing into, even if Valve isn't going to do the legwork for me, just because, I don't know, right? Like, maybe I do that and my consoles become exclusive machines, and like, that's more the way I'm playing, but I don't know. I think
there's been so many games I played on PC this year that have only been on PC that I couldn't have played if I hadn't have played anywhere else. Like Vampire Survivors isn't even on console yet. It's only coming to Xbox at the end of this month.
Right.
So I would have missed out on playing that. Possibly wouldn't have even bothered with it because it wasn't on the device I wanted to play it on. And same with Signalis. That's only on PC. There's tons of games that are only on PC and they take ages to come to console, and it's nice to be able to finally play them.
Yeah, it's nice to not have to like wait to get on the second wave of something and be able to like feel like you're there when it hits the first time. But I don't know, it's like there's part of me that like I feel the draw of both of that, because it's like, I think about like something like Disco Elysium, which I played like a year later than all the PC players, but I played the best version of it. And it was already optimized and it had full voice acting. And, like I felt like PC players kind of beta tested it for me. And then I got to play the most stable, finished version. So it's like.
Yeah, whereas I played the version on Switch.
Told you not to.
Not that. Yeah, I know.
But, so it's tough because it's like I think there are certain types of experiences that I just inherently prefer on console. But if there does come a point where I'm frustrated by the power differential again or things like that, maybe I'm willing to make those concessions a little bit more to put in a little extra work to get a better performance. But I don't know, because convenience is such a big factor for me. And like, I like playing on my PlayStation and my Xbox, and like, especially when there's like, is the game on Game Pass and I can play it for free? Like, is it worth spending $60 for a game I could play for free so I can play a slightly better version of it here? I don't know. Or like Starfield is a game I'd probably rather just play on Xbox. And like,
Oh yeah, well, see, I would want to play on Xbox and handheld because I know every Bethesda game has a lot of just walking around and a lot of side quests like that. So I feel like I'm going to do the mix where I'm going to play it on Game Pass, of course, and do the remote play thing.
yeah.
But I do think eventually we'll see Microsoft's aspirations with Game Pass coming to. They want it on every platform, and I know streaming seems to be their route at the moment, but why not bring it to Steam at some point? Like
Or
EA
yeah,
plays there.
or Linux, right? If they make a Linux launcher, then you could just play it
Yeah.
that way too. I don't know. We'll see. And again, right? Like you said, so much of it comes down to like what does development look like in the next couple of years? Because like I'm not sold on the idea that like we're gonna be stuck with 30 FPS. Because like looking at the games that have come out and hit that, they have a lot of other technical problems, and it feels like those games are not well optimized. And like I think
Oh,
about
I don't necessarily agree with that. Like, Plague Tale, it looks phenomenal. Like, a genuinely insane
yeah,
game. And I really think, like, it's been the cross-gen games is the reason we've had these games that can get 6120 because they're targeting the original PlayStation 4 or
sure.
original Xbox One. So it's like they've got all of this headroom that they can just go, yeah, fucking chuck the sliders all the way up to max and just, yeah, give them
Yeah.
a 120 hertz mode.
Yeah, and I don't know. But I mean, like, I think you look at, like, what we were able to eke out of the PlayStation 4 by the end of that generation and, like, how some of those games look and everything. And I don't know. Like,
They were 30 though. That whole generation was
yeah.
30 really.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think that means that we won't find ways to, get the power that's needed to keep up. But I don't know. Like, I'm not, I trust Digital Foundry as well, right? But it's also like, there's so
Yeah, that's just
much.
an opinion piece, so
There's so much that
like
goes into development that is hard to quantify, right? Because it's like there may be solutions that have not yet been unlocked, right? And I'm not willing to.
yes. Well, I mean, we saw our first FSR2 game, which was Plague Tale, and that's still only with FSR2 hit a max of 40 frames per second
Yeah,
on the console. But AMD's just announced FSR3, so maybe that's the leap that we need on console to be able to hit 60 FPS and still get like a decent looking output.
yeah. So point being, I think there's so many questions left unanswered about what games in the next 3, 4, 5 years are going to look like, just because we're still figuring it out. So, um, I we'll have to see on that one. So let's jump into our next story here. There are some new controller options currently available in beta, and two interesting callouts that you wanted to highlight here.
Yeah, there's very little in that beta. It's a lot of fixes, a lot of bug fixes. I think they called it bug fix Wednesday bug fixes was the name of the release. But there's a couple of things that people uncovered. When you go into the controller settings now, if you've got a PlayStation controller connected, you can change the color of the LEDs, whether that's like the top bar or the ones around the touchpad. And you can natively switch any controller now. It's not just restricted to Nintendo controllers to the Nintendo layout. So if you prefer A on the right and B on the bottom, and then swap the X, Y around as well, you can do that natively for any controller. So say you use a PlayStation controller, but you still prefer that circle is the confirm button rather than X. You can now swap that around, which is nice. And this is clearly them trying to hit parity with big picture mode. They've been trying it and aiming for that for a long time, and now that they've rolled out gamepad UI as their replacement for big picture mode in the Steam client beta for desktop, they're obviously just continuing to work and add all the features that are missing.
I am really stoked about the PlayStation thing. That's the primary controller that I use, and it's like a silly thing, but I am stoked to be able to just, because it's like I think it defaults to white, and I'm like, oh, I don't like that. Like
Yeah,
my
no, I
controller's
like the
pink. I'd
blue that
rather
it
have the
has.
light be
Yeah,
like pink or blue or like something that like.
yeah, that would be cool. Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. One thing I would like eventually is for the PlayStation to enable all of the haptics and cool, like, trigger stuff that works with the Steam Deck over Bluetooth. I don't even know if it works via USB. I've not tried it. Because I don't think I've got any games that support adaptive triggers or the haptics. But I think that needs to work over Bluetooth at some point for it to still worthwhile using on the Steam Deck.
I imagine that that'll come, considering they, are putting all this stuff, like they're clearly making a push for PC, and I could see them wanting to establish the PlayStation controller as like a go-to for PC gaming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I also think those technologies are probably going to come to other controllers at some point. I think we're probably going to see that, like the haptics style rumble is the future moving forward, rather than the traditional moving twisty motors in more premium controllers. In the same way that the Hall effect controller sticks have become kind of, since GuliKit had their first King Kong controller, they seem to be rolling out to a lot of controllers. The new 8-bit Do controller was announced this week with the Hall effect sticks, so no drifting, and I think that needs to become the norm as well.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so moving right along, we've got the news that VRR support is incoming to Steam Deck. And I know this is something that you're very excited about. You've been talking about this one
Very
for a while.
excited, yeah. Yeah,
Go
well, I
off.
mean, I think VRR is such a good solution. If you've got a panel that supports variable refresh rate, it means you can just uncap the frame rate to some extent anyway. And when you can't quite hit 60, but you're fluctuating between 40 and 60, it'll tell the panel that this is the frame rate that I'm giving you. Set your refresh rate to this so it doesn't look jerky and doesn't feel weird. It was announced that it was one of the things I highlighted in our doc review that I was really disappointed about, because they announced FreeSync support when they announced the dock was coming out, and it wasn't there at launch. Still not there, but they are working on it. So people found toggles within the build on main. Now main is something that's hidden in the developer options. You have to enable it in order to be able to install it. Basically installs the very latest build that's on the repo, that's not gone through any testing. It's not a beta. It's like pre-alpha. We just clicked build and we uploaded it. This is what you're getting. And there were a couple of toggles in there. One was VRR and the other one was allow tearing. And both of those are really interesting because Gamescope, by default at the moment, which is the compositor that gaming mode runs on, when you have the performance thing up in the corner, has VSync enabled at all times. You can't turn it off at all. So allow tearing will allow you to turn off VSync, which would be great, because if you want to use the in-game VSync, you'll be able to do it. Or if you're using VRR, then you can do that as well. Now, people thought the toggles, including me, meant that it maybe would work on the internal display, because they showed up for the internal display. Now, in the latest build, they've since disabled it. It comes up with a message saying this display doesn't support variable refresh rate. But Pierre-Loup Griffet announced on Twitter and said that basically this wasn't for the Steam Deck. He said the VRR toggle on main is still undergoing development and it's just showing erroneously when using the internal display. It's meant for external displays. The internal display does not support VRR. So I was disappointed by that. I thought maybe they'd somehow worked their magic to enable VRR for the internal screen, but it looks like it's only for external screens. But either way, I'm happy that it's coming. And I think we're probably next week is when we're going to probably see VRR roll out. And if it comes to HDMI as well as DisplayPort, because it's still not confirmed which ports are going to support it, I'll be over the moon. Like, I'll be so happy. It will solve so many of the things I want.
Well, the fact that you just said that, I'm gonna guess that Valve will probably announce it in the next 20 to 30 minutes as soon as we're done recording this show. Because that seems to be how these things work.
I tested the new main build before we recorded because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't already in there and working. It's not. So the build that was there yesterday, it's not functioning currently. They may have put a new build out while we're recording, and that seems to usually be their trend.
I swear to God, they're like tracking. They're like, okay, this is when they record. 10 minutes later, it's like almost without fail. And like, it's happened even when we've recorded the show early, we've recorded it late. And it's like always, we're like, oh, when are we going to get news about the Steam Deck dock? Bam, release date. Or like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to hear about VRR? Right now, it's going to happen.
Well,
Always.
they put news out 22 hours ago, which was the Wednesday bug fixes. So I think we're safe this week, because I think VRR is
Fingers
still a
crossed.
ways away.
Fingers
Uh,
crossed.
but if you're interested, I'll put some links to the Gamescope GitHub repo, because following along the commits on there is quite fun. You can see the stuff that Pierre and his team's working on. And there's even a new stretch scaling mode that's been added. Whether that comes through to Steam Deck or not, I don't know. But it would mean that a lot of people that hate the tiny little black bars top and bottom, and I don't know why people can't just ignore them, you'll be able to stretch to fill them.
Okay. All right. That's cool. I was thinking it was... You said stretch, and my mind went to the original Game Boy Advance, where you would put a Game Boy game in, and it was an SD, and then you could stretch it, and it would just be like, and it would just made it super long and weird.
No, I imagine it's for those 16:9 only games, and
Yeah.
if you want to just hide those top and bottom bars, you'll be able to stretch it, which is a fairly decent solution, I guess, if you really
Yeah.
can't stand having black bars.
They bug me a lot on a television screen. Like when that was the docked experience, I was like, this is I can't deal with this. It bugs the shit out of me. But on the deck, it doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm not bothered about it on the Steam Deck, but when they were like obnoxious down the side before you could change it to a 16:9 resolution, then yeah, I would agree with you that they were annoying as hell. But
Top and bottom
I
doesn't
learned
feel
to
as
live with
bad
it.
as side, right? Because
No, it doesn't.
You're
But I
conditioned.
can watch 4:3 stuff. Like I do watch 4:3 TV, no problem.
That's different though, right? Because like it, and I'm not saying like it's weird, but like you're used to the fact that it's 4:3 because you're like, right, like this is how it was, right? Like I've watched The Simpsons, right? I've been watching that, and I'm watching
Yeah,
that.
and I hope you're watching the original
Absolutely.
4:3 version.
Absolutely. I like Googled it before I even started. I was like, "Did Disney fix this? Like, can I watch it?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can do
No.
it now. Yeah, you can go and toggle it." So I did that. No worries. But that it's like I'm watching. It's like a period thing, right? It's like this is what it looked like then. It's in SD because it's in SD. But when you're playing, and I feel like you're conditioned to the top and bottom bars because you've seen movies in widescreen, right? So you've seen movies that have that. So you're like, all right, there's little black bars on the top and bottom. I can vibe with that. That's fine. But when they're on the left and right, it drives me nuts for some reason. And there's no good reason for it, but it bothers me.
It's okay. Everyone has their thing that they just can't abide by, and it's fine.
Anyway,
Maybe the stretch mode is for you.
Maybe
Fill
so.
in that tiny little space.
All right. So now, before we get out of here, why don't you regale us with the story of how you bricked your Steam Deck?
Yeah, so I've been fussing around and working on a new plugin for Decky, which should be out I guess by the time this goes out, it'll be out probably next week. And I was playing around with something called system extensions within Linux, and I accidentally made a system extension that was owned by the root user, and when I overlaid it on my file system, none of the commands worked anymore, and the Steam Deck wouldn't boot. It said I couldn't even like list or change directory or anything.
Oh no!
And I was booted off of SSH, and it was a scary time. It was like, oh shit, I fucking bricked it. It was just stuck on the Steam Deck logo when it boots. It would not go any further. It wouldn't even boot into Linux.
Oh my god!
So I had to make a system image. Oh yeah, but see, this was my own doing. It was my own doing. So I knew exactly how to fix it. I just needed to delete that file. So I made a system image. I have a version of SteamOS on a USB stick now. So if I ever have this problem again, I can just boot into the system image. You plug this in, you hold down power and the minus button, and you boot into the system image, and you can then just opens up into a desktop mode. And I was able to delete the file, and then once I deleted the file, I got into SteamOS. But if you don't know what you're doing, what I will say is don't mess around as the root user, because it can cause a lot of trouble.
This is exactly why I'm so terrified of tinkering with things. Oh man. And like I had a period in my life where I was bolder about that kind of thing, but which honestly in retrospect makes no sense cuz it was at a time where if I bricked stuff, I did not have the money to replace it. Like if I broke my Steam Deck because I was like, worst case scenario, we would have gotten you a new Steam Deck. We would have figured it out, right? But like bold. Bold. I respect it. I'm glad you were able to fix it.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's a PC, so you can just reinstall the operating system. If anything,
Sure.
worst case scenario, I would have lost all of my files. I'd have had to re-download all my games. I would have lost some of my saves on my non-Steam games. But it's not the end of the world. No, I have fun tinkering around, and I get to make cool plugins for people, which is nice.
I'm in a great spot because all I need to do is I haven't updated EmuDeck yet because it dropped like right before I left. But once I update EmuDeck and I back up all my emulator games to the cloud save system that they've got, then I'm in business, right? Then it's like no matter what happens, all my shit's backed up.
They've just released a new plugin as well called Emu Achievements over on Decky, and you log in with your you log into Retro Achievements, and then all of your emulated games will have achievements, and you can get achievements.
Yo,
for doing things
I'm definitely gonna do that. You got to make a video about that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a cool one.
What's it called?
Emu Achievements. It's part of the Emu Deck project now, so I think they're including it in their installer from now on. You can then access retro achievements just by logging in. Which is cool.
So when I install EmuDeck 2, it'll just give me that?
There's an option you can log in, but it's a plugin that they've released via Decky. You might need to install Decky if you haven't got it, but you can install Power Tools through EmuDeck 2 as well now. Check out the video I did about GameCube optimization if you're interested. It'll show you some of the stuff.
I haven't watched that one yet, so I'll do that. Yeah, cool. Very nice. Well, good. I'm glad you didn't ruin your Steam Deck.
Yeah, it's all good. Saved. I think it took approximately 30 minutes from like me bricking it to my partner going like, "Oh, great, what have you done?" to me having fixed it, and then they were able to play their truck driving simulation game again. They were happy. So.
Honestly, you should maybe make a video about that too, of like what happened, like what to do if you brick your Steam Deck.
Yeah, I probably should like do a here's how you fix shit thing. But it's easy. It's easy. There's instructions on Valve's website. But if you do have any problems, jump on the Discord. If you are at the stage I was at and you're like panicking, you're like shit, I don't know what to do. Just jump on the Discord.
We have a new channel called Help Desk that you can go to if you want to ask Steve for help.
And we'll let Pete help you out because he'll know exactly what to do.
Of course, yeah, me the expert. See, I think what'll be perfect, we should just have all the help desk stuff just goes directly to me, and then I'm just like, okay, we're gonna have to talk to one of our technicians here. I'm the dickhead in the Amazon warehouse, just like, yeah, I don't know, but I'm gonna find out. I'll ask some smart guy for you. Don't worry.
Amazon's customer service is decent, to be honest. Like, that's one thing they do get right.
It's good. Don't get me wrong, but like I'm sure that's the experience 9 times out of 10, right? Is like, oh, I have to escalate this to somebody, like,
Yeah.
Or they're just like, yeah, whatever. Here you go. We'll send you 2 of them. Anyway. All right, so we'll wrap it there for today. Jam-packed episode. We covered a lot of ground this week, Steve.
Yeah, it's been a good one. It's been fun.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Anyway,
and come listen to the Flip Screen Games podcast as well, because I'm sure we'll have more to say about the games we've been playing over there. If you're interested to hear about Persona 5 or Signalis or Genshin Impact, which I also got working on. What? You playing
Genshin Impact? What? Who are you?
I disabled the anti-cheat, so I want to see how long I can play it before I get banned, because I'm playing it natively on SteamOS.
You're psycho. I've also been playing Marvel Snap on my phone, so I'm going to talk about that as well, because it's really good. If you like trading card games but don't like trading cards, this is a W. This is a winner. I like it a lot. So yeah, go check that out. If you've never checked out the Flip Screen Games podcast or Nintendo Noise or any of the non Steam Deck stuff we do here, go give it a spin. See what you think. If you made it this far, I'm sure you'll enjoy those shows too. Speaking of which, if you want to find those shows, if you want to write into this show, if you want to go be a Patreon supporter, if you want to watch us stream games on Twitch, whatever you want to do, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links to all the ways you can get involved, support the show, support the community, or, whatever. Just write into the show, whatever you want to do. However you choose to get involved, we're happy to have you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week. Music's playing, hold on. This is where it builds. Dun, 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 dun. Got to play it earlier and now it happens now. Ba, 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 bow!